Let's talk about the main event, guys. This was an amazing show from top to bottom. What did you guys think about the main event, the tag team #1 contenders 4-way match? SPD, what are your thoughts coming out of that matchup? And really, we all know the way that match ended was memorable, but what do you think about the actual match itself? What do you think?
There was a lot going on, and with all that going on, I expected more high spots. Overall, it made everyone had strong. I think Butcher and the Blade looked the weakest.
Okay.
Unfortunately, John Silver, we're all a pretty heavy John Silver fan, and I think seeing them on Dark and seeing them wrestle, like those two guys worked well together. Alex Reynolds and Silver, and Private Party, still young and green, have some awesome skill set for sure. I could never see the Young Bucks losing this. The only reason I could have seen someone else losing or them losing is to kind of further the feud and to go where it goes from here. But as we saw at the end, it still could further the feud. If they end up being severely injured, then someone else could take their spot. It really put some heavy heat on FTR.
Well said.
But then where do you go with the Young Bucks? Clearly they're pushing for heel turns or if they, this heel anti-everything movement. And then all of a sudden, FTR being the #1 heel tag team, putting them down like this cheap shot and having Tully do all these things. Like, what do you do with the Young Bucks from here? I don't know.
Zepp, what was your takeaway? I know that you're a Butcher and the Blade fan. Do you think that you agree with SPD that they looked the weakest in tonight's matchup? And where would you take the Young Bucks from here? Do you think that this is going to be one of those things that is going to keep them out on the shelf for a little bit, and that the AEW needs to pivot? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so Big Butch is obviously one of my favorites besides Darby. So anytime he looks a little bit less than stellar, I'm always like a little down on it. I thought he looked so strong a couple weeks ago when he fought Mox for the championship, surprisingly. So that was pretty lame on tonight's show, in my opinion. So I guess I would give this one the lead as well after revisiting it. But for me, it always seemed kind of obvious that Young Bucks were like the pro team going against possibly like 3 under team, or what do you want to call it? I don't want to call these guys minor league guys, but it just always seemed like they were just the clear cut winner to win this one.
Well, so yeah, I mean, Zepp, not to like undercut what you're saying. I totally agree with what you're saying there, right? None of these guys have been presented the same way that the Best Friends have. They haven't been presented the same way that even like maybe Santana and Ortiz have.
Right.
I get what you're saying. These tag teams outside of the Young Bucks, none of them have really been focused or showcased as legitimate contenders up to this point, right?
Yep.
I understand where you're coming from on that. SPD, what were your thoughts? Are you going to take this as an elite or delete? Do you agree with Zepp?
I still am going back and forth with it. Overall, I had higher expectations for this match, just with the pure talent in it, and I expected John Silver to shine a little bit more. He did have some spots. I was excited because they're putting him over too. The announcers were putting him over, as rightfully so. But sadly, for the main event, I'm going delete.
Wow, guys, I'm shocked. I'm really genuinely shocked. For me, the match itself may have not been as much of what we would have hoped it would have been, right? I don't think that there was nearly as many believable finishes. I think some of that is because, as Zepp pointed out, I didn't really have any doubt that the Young Bucks were going to win this one. I thought that potentially, maybe it's because I've been falling into the Dark Order. You guys have been trying to pull me in. But I watch Being the Elite every week, and I just love what Silver and Reynolds are doing. I love what the Dark Order are doing on Being the Elite, even though I don't like them on Dynamite for whatever reason. But I know
don't even get us started on that.
You guys have to be dying just watching me say that I like what they're doing.
We're gonna create a video that shows where you were and you now, and back to back.
I was one of the biggest haters of the Dark Order, but the more that I watch them on Being the Elite, the more that I see their natural personalities come out. they are hilarious. They're naturally very funny as a group of rejects, right? And so I thought maybe that could have happened because just building off of their like kind of underground popularity. But really, for the most part, I never really doubted that the Young Bucks were going to win this one. And so that does hurt the overall match, right? None of us really thought like any of these guys had a chance. So I can understand why you guys did a delete, but to me, sometimes the obvious choice isn't the bad choice, right? Sometimes it's not a bad thing that
that's true.
That like I mean, really, like this is what we want to see. We want to see FTR versus the Young Bucks, right?
True.
Sometimes just because it's what we know is going to happen doesn't mean that they shouldn't do it. They should like.
Good point.
To me, I think that the Young Bucks needed a victory like this to kind of showcase just how good they are. That combo pile driver senton move that they did was just awesome. Their gear was on point tonight. I love whenever they bust out the $sign. I love that. I think that's always great. And personally, I think the end of the show, I don't know how to me, like, I love you guys, but I don't know how you can give that a delete given the end of the show. Not only did we get to like really lean heavily finally into the Young Bucks and FTR feud, we got to see some violence, a beatdown, a savage beatdown, and we got to see Tully Blanchard jumping off the top rope, brother.
Hey, he jumped
awesome,
off the
man.
middle rope.
Middle rope. All right, high flying move by Tully. That I was dying at the end. I was laughing my ass off. That was awesome. And to be honest with you, I know that the Young Bucks have been showing a little bit more edge on television lately, but this is something that as fans, knowing that they're the good guys, this is something as fans that we can get behind and say, man, whatever they do to FTR, it's deserved, right? Like, right. I hope that they show edge. I hope, we want these good guys now to like come back and beat the hell out of FTR. These guys who really FTR have shown that they've like cowards. They take all the cheap shots that they can. They take all the any opportunity they can to get it upper hand on their opponents behind the referee's back. They'll do anything that they can to do that, right? They've shown that they're kind of like champions that we don't want to root for. And then they do that kind of punk move, beating down and potentially taking out the Young Bucks, putting them on the shelf for a while after after they were crowned as their number one contenders. It just shows, to me, it highlights why FTR is so good at being bad guys. And it shows why we want the Young Bucks to ultimately take the belts off of them. It gives more push to that. I thought that the end of the show was awesome. AEW's done a really good job at pushing the tag division and doing the slow build to that feud. It's no longer a slow build to me anymore, fellas. We are all in on the Young Bucks and FTR. Those guys are ready to go at it. I want to see them beat the hell out of each other. For that reason alone, and again, I love the tag division in AEW, but for that reason alone, to see FTR and the Young Bucks, something that's been talked about for years, finally come to fruition, I'm all in, man. That's an elite for me, no doubt.
All right. After hearing this from the most amazing promoter I think I've ever gotten a pitch from, I literally have no idea how I gave this a delete. I don't know. It says more about me being incredibly wishy-washy, or you're just a great promoter. But I switched my statement, and I am elite. It was good.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. I'll jump on the bandwagon for someone who could sell a ketchup popsicle to a woman in white gloves.
Right?
I love it. All
right,
fellas.
We got a triple elite.
It could have been all deletes, and now I turned the momentum to all elites. And Nate, you wonder why I'm good at sales, brother.
Yeah, we were all superficial deletes, or Nate and I were superficial deletes.
I get
it. Once we get dive deeper with the your analogy, then we see where it can be and is an elite.
We